Привет. Я никогда бы не подумал, что игра на гитаре, причем на вполне любительском уровне, мое хобби, приведет меня в итоге к жизни.
Ce sont les dernières images de l'opposant congolais Guibrice Parfait Kolela, très affaibli, avec un masque à oxygène.
Je suis en difficulté. Je me bats contre la mort. Mais cependant, je vous demande de me lever. Allez-y voter pour le changement. Je ne serai pas battu pour lui.
Le candidat à la présidentielle est décédé peu après, durant son évacuation sanitaire vers la France. Testé positif au Covid-19 vendredi après-midi, il n'avait pas pu animer son dernier meeting de campagne à Brazzaville. Ses partisans réunis en nombre étaient alors persuadés que leur candidat remporterait l'élection.
Non seulement nous croyons à notre projet, au projet du candidat président Kolela, mais nous donnons aussi un signal. Au Congo, il faut que certaines choses changent.
Opposant historique, Parfait Kolela est apparu cette année comme le principal rival de Denis Sassou Nguesso, 77 ans, dont 36 au pouvoir. Fils d'un ancien Premier ministre, Kolela a lui-même travaillé dans différents ministères, dont celui de la pêche ou encore de la fonction publique. Son combat politique le mène jusqu'à la deuxième place de la présidentielle de 2016. Il n'a jamais reconnu les résultats.
J'invite le président Denis Sassou Nguesso, proclamé vainqueur, à avoir le triomphe modeste, car cette élection a été émaillée d'irrégularités de tout genre. Il devra s'élever pour apaiser tous les Congolais.
La mort de Parfait Kolela intervient alors que le dépouillement est en cours dans le pays. Les résultats sont attendus dans la semaine. Selon le directeur de campagne de Kolela, ce dernier était en tête dans un certain nombre de localités.
Google реклама была создана для Михаила. Он владелец автосервиса, а еще автослесарь. И художник, и мойщик. И только рекламой за него занимается Google. Google реклама анализирует эффективность компаний, чтобы постоянно совершенствовать их и помогать вашему бизнесу находить новых клиентов. Поиск новых клиентов доверьте Google рекламе.
В этом доме я снимаю квартиру, и в этом тоже, и вон там еще мои окна. А живу я вообще в другой части света. Сдавать квартиры на сутки сейчас это бизнес. Вижу ваш недоверчивый взгляд. Отлично вас понимаю. Моей первой съемной на сутки квартиры было страшное местечко. В нем мне посчастливилось переночевать, хотя не очень-то хотелось. Деваться было некуда. Когда я сказала хозяину, что больше никогда у него не остановлюсь, он только посмеялся. Да плевать, сказал он, у меня и так куча клиентов. Серьезно? Нет, подождите, вы не шутите? Там же не было ремонта с времен Средневековья, а слово «гостеприимство» выглядит ругательным. Меня это задело, и я начала строить свою систему по аренде квартир на сутки. Сначала сдала одну, потом две, сегодня их 35, а мой доход в месяц стабильно выше 1 000 000 рублей. Квартиры чистые и приятные, шах и мат. Я построила бизнес на гостеприимстве и доступном жилье, не вкладывая своих денег. Какие сложности были на пути, с чего начинать и как продолжить? Хочу вам рассказать, как вы можете сделать то же самое. Регистрируйтесь по ссылочке под этим видео и до встречи на мастер-классе.
Интересно, мне нравится.
In this video, I'm going to take you on a tour of my new Tokyo apartment. Since I did a video on my last Shibuya apartment, and I also did a video on moving to this new place, a lot of people have been asking for a full tour of this new apartment. So here it is. The old Shibuya apartment was about 35 square meters, while this new apartment is 70 square meters, which works out to be about 750 square feet, which is kind of what Michael and I were looking for when looking for a new place. As many of you know, we're about to have a baby soon, so finding a place that just had a little bit more room for Michael, myself, and the new baby just made a lot of sense to us. But if you watch my second channel, Tokyo Zebra, you know how much of a pain and all the issues we've had trying to find this new place. But fortunately, we found it and we finally moved in. And luckily for us, we moved into this new apartment several weeks before Japan declared a state of emergency, which has made the quarantine a little bit more bearable. So before I start, if you want to see what I'm doing on the daily, check out my Instagram account. And if you want to help support the channel, check out the Hold My Miso merch. And if you have any questions about Japan, check out my Discord community. That all said, let me take you on a tour of this place. Let's go! So first of all, this is the entrance area, and as you can see, it's a lot wider and more spacious than my previous apartment. So one of the things that I appreciate the most is that in this place, it has built-in storage for shoes. Finally, I get my own dedicated closet here, and then just next to it, Maiko has her own dedicated closet for shoes as well. And just below, I keep some of my workout equipment, so if I need to go and I'm on the run, I can just quickly grab it and go. Also, another thing that I appreciate is that the apartment has a lot of built-in wall hooks. In fact, it's proven quite useful because I'm able to hang a hand sanitizer just right here at the entrance. And there you go. My hands all sanitized now. And another thing that I really love about this new place is that just in front at the entrance, there's a little space where you can actually put a vase and hang something if you really want. Let me show you what I put in front of the entrance because I'm kind of a little proud of it. And here it is, YouTube's 1 million subscriber play button. This is one of those awards where it wouldn't have been possible without you guys. So thank you so much. I appreciate all the support. And one thing that I wanted to share with you guys, look just a little bit closer to the play button. It actually says presented to Paula from Tokyo and Michael because they do this channel together. Again, thank you guys so much for the support over the years. I'm so excited for this year to come and all of the new content I'll be sharing with you. That said, let me now show you the living room. Alright, so this is the main living dining. Kitchen area. In fact, we live in a 2 LDK, which means in Japan, 2 bedrooms, living, dining, and kitchen. So I'll be showing you the other 2 bedrooms shortly, but let me just go through and kind of show you what we did around this space. One of the things that was really important to Michael and I when kind of setting up this place was to make sure we didn't have a lot of clutter. If you saw the Shibuya apartment tour just a few weeks ago, you noticed that we lived in a fairly cramped space. And because it was so cramped, we just had so much clutter, which just, and because it was so cramped, we just had so much clutter.
Что сказать, Шибуя, пуха. А, ну да.
Right, it is 8 a.m. in Shanghai and Li Yuxuan is just waking up. Yuxuan also goes by the English name Heather. She's a 25-year-old Chinese woman living in Shanghai, and this is her average day. Heather lives in this 3-bedroom apartment in Jing'an with a Chinese couple and their friend, who must all still be asleep. Like many Chinese, she prefers to take a shower in the evening instead of mornings. Heather grew up in Beijing and has been living in Shanghai for just 2 months. Previously, she studied PR and political science at Penn State before moving back to Beijing for 2 years and then deciding to move to Shanghai after falling in love with the city. For breakfast, she keeps it short and sweet with a glass of milk. It's now 8:35 a.m. and time for Heather to unplug her electric scooter and drive to work.
Как избавиться от боли в спине? Как оздоровить позвоночник? Как обрести радость и свободу движения? Меня зовут Александр Волосков. Много лет назад врачи сказали, что я не буду ходить из-за проблем с позвоночником. Сейчас, в свои 40...
She lives pretty central in Jing'an district, so her commute to work only takes about 25 minutes. Like many Chinese, Heather commutes by electric scooter or e-bike. China has roughly 200 million electric scooters on the streets, and with a population of over 24 million, you can expect to see a lot of bikes on the road during rush hour. Heather's office is located in the former French concession, which is arguably Shanghai's prettiest neighborhood, with its leafy boulevards full of old buildings, cozy bars, and restaurants. The office itself is inside an old converted ling house, also known as a shukumun. First appearing in the 1860s, these buildings are known for their Shanghainese architectural style that combine Western and Chinese elements. Unfortunately, as Shanghai expands and the infrastructure weakens under the pressure of the growing population, many older shukumun have been torn down. Heather works for a company called Baopao's, which is not your average Chinese workplace, but one that is very fitting for Shanghai. Baopao's is an English language platform that connects users to products from Chinese shopping sites such as Taobao and Tmall, with added auto translations and search functionality for non-native shoppers. The site has over 52,000 registered users and has had over 3 million orders placed over the last 3 years. That is a lot of people that can't read Chinese.
Okay. We will proceed with doing. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Today is November 12th, which is the day after China's biggest 24-hour online shopping event, Double 11. Also known as Singles Day, this shopping holiday first started as an obscure anti-Valentine's celebration for single Chinese in the 90s. It was then adopted by the e-commerce giant Alibaba, China's equivalent of Amazon, in 2009, and has now transformed into a day when everyone, regardless of their single status, buys themselves gifts. This year, Alibaba broke yet another record with more than 38 billion in sales. For the Baopao's team, that meant that making sure that every order that was made on their site was processed by midnight so none of their customers missed the sale. So it goes without saying that some of their staff members might be feeling a little worn out today. Heather works in business development and marketing, but today is all hands on deck, so she is starting her workday by joining the customer service team to answer any shopping related questions.
Sometimes it's about like different sizing cards that customers use, and also the ones they use on Taobao. And this one is about like, do they have this size?
Before lunch, the Baopao founders Charlie, Jay, and Tyler are holding a meeting to recap the intense past 24 hours. These 3 expats first started Baopao's in 2016 as a way to make shopping in China easier and
which just, I really hated. So in this new space, I kind of wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible. And one of the things you'll probably notice first is that the living dining dining and kitchen is all connected into this one space. We wanted to have this kind of island kitchen behind me so that in the future when we're doing more vlogs on our Tokyo Zebra channel, we'll be able to kind of show you more what's going on in the kitchen, in the living room, without having to go to all these like separate rooms. So we have the main island kitchen there, we have a little dining set over there, and then we just have this living room space right here. You can see that the zebra carpet, which kind of goes with the Tokyo Zebra motif, just kind of separates the dining and the living room area. But one thing about this living room area, we're actually still waiting for a sofa to be delivered. This pink chair behind me should just be going actually like right here, and then there we're supposed to have another sofa, but we just couldn't get it in time. It might just take another month or two to be delivered, so what can you do? Now let me show you this apartment from that side of the room. So a lot of you already know that Michael and I work from home, so we actually set up this little area for our work desk. So one of the things that was quite important to us was to keep the workstations here in the main living area so that when the baby comes, we can also watch over the baby while we're working. But if you already haven't noticed, this room is kind of in a weird triangle shape, so we kind of had to make adjustments in order to make this room work. First of all, I think this area was originally intended to be kind of like where you put your TVs and everything, and then maybe the couch would go here and you'd face that way, but instead we actually decided to put the TV here in front of the window just to open up the space a little bit more because we do have these workstations here. And because we did that, we had to kind of reposition the lights. What you'll find, I don't know, this might be similar to your country, but the light fixtures in apartments are fixed to one location. In order to get around that, I had to get this light fixture bar where I can move the light 1 meter away. And pretty much the same thing for the dining room as well. Oh, but let me show you one thing I didn't like about this room, but was able to find a solution for. So just underneath the island kitchen, I actually wanted to put the air filter right here. But the problem is they didn't have any electrical outlets. They only had it on the other side of the room. So what I actually did to just like clean things up, because I really hate cables all over the place, was I ran some molding from that side of the wall all the way to this side of the wall, and because the color of the baseboard changed, I also changed the color of the molding. And then to terminate it, I made this little board change.
Нет, это не приснилось, это
I also all the way to this side of the wall, and because the color of the baseboard changed, I also changed the color of the molding.
Нет, понятно.
And then to terminate it, I made this little box where I can put all of the cables in so it's not so messy. I know, pretty simple, but these little things just make me super happy. And another thing that I just really love about this space is just how the windows wrap around this entire room, so that when you pull back the curtains, you really feel like there's a lot more space than it is right now. Because I know a lot of you who live in Western countries probably think that this is a pretty small place, but it's Japan, so what can you do? Overall, I think we did a decent job on making this room work. I don't know, what do you guys think? But probably I shouldn't take any of this credit. It was actually Maiko that designed and like spaced everything out, picked out the furniture, picked out the carpet. Pretty much I just had to agree to whatever she wanted, and I'm pretty happy that I did. Oh, but I did get to choose a TV. The only thing is we agreed that I wouldn't go any bigger than this one. So this is the kitchen area, and as I said before, one of the things I love the most about this area is that it's an open kitchen. It's just so nice to sit back here and be able to see the rest of the room, see the view, see the TV. And also, since we have a baby on the way, it'll be cool to be able to like do stuff here in the kitchen while also being able to watch the baby. Because what you'll find in a lot of Japanese apartments, especially like the one we had before, the kitchen is kind of in a separate room. It's difficult to see what's going on in the dining room or the living room. This makes life easier for us. Also, what I do like is the kitchen sink is bigger. Before we had 2 burners on the stove, now we have 3 burners. We have a little fish grill, which I didn't have before. And now we have an oven microwave system, so we can actually bake stuff. Michael's already made lasagna, cookies, and all that kind of stuff. It just opens up all the stuff that we can eat, and you know I love food. So the thing is, it's not actually the biggest oven in the world, but ovens are really hard to come by in apartments in Tokyo, so we're just super happy that we have it. I think a lot of people today who want ovens will actually buy separate ones that they set in their kitchen. They don't actually have ones that are built in. In fact, that's one of the things that Michael and I were really considering, if we didn't have an oven in the new apartment, we were probably just going to get a standalone one and just hook it up and connect it somewhere. And then just beyond there, we keep all the dishes, and then we have some pots down below. One thing though that I didn't particularly like about this kitchen is it's kind of a shelf area just behind me. I wish we had just a little bit more depth so that we can actually put stuff on there. But since we can, it's kind of limited. We've actually had to buy this cart separately that's just sitting right here so that we can put the rice cooker, put the toaster.
Now their goal is to bring Chinese shopping and Chinese products to the rest of the world.
And every 11/11 has gotten better than the one before, not just in terms of our growth and our website being better, but our team and our systems being much better as well. Anybody have any guesses on what people were buying or what people were searching for yesterday the most? Yeah, that was the top search. Yeah, if you remember my post in the morning, it stayed pretty true to that.
Finally, it's lunchtime, but not everyone can eat at the same time, so Heather and a co-worker, Ginger, are heading out together. With yesterday being Heather's day off, Ginger fills her in what it was like at work.
When I arrived at 8, we had like over 60 messages from people just demanding answers. So I spent all morning trying to answer their questions, and a lot of people.
And during those several years, I learned a lot about Japanese business culture. It wasn't uncommon for me to work 10 to 12 hours a day. I worked a lot of weekends, but luckily the company I was working for had kind of more Western culture, so I did get paid the overtime for my work, which was nice. There was just a lot of projects going on at the time. Overall, it was a great experience. I busted my ass. I learned a crap load. Then after several years working as a project manager, I ended up leaving that company, and then I was hired on by a software development company in the finance industry, and I did that job for a couple years. I'm also making more friends, picked up snowboarding. I was young, I was in my 20s, I had money, and the snowboarding became a huge part of my life. I was doing it every weekend until I had just a major snowboarding accident, which kind of changed the whole direction of my life here in Japan. But let me tell you more about that story after finding a new spot, because my butt's getting kind of sore. So where was I? Oh yeah. Major snowboard injury. Basically, I ended up at the Nagano emergency room. I broke 9 ribs, I broke my hip, I had an aortic aneurysm, I crushed my lung, and just like a whole slew of injuries. I spent about a month at Nagano ICU. Yeah, so pretty much I almost died. There's just a lot of stuff that happened. I ended up having to get open heart surgery, which then led to me losing my voice for a year. So I was in and out of the hospital for, I would say, over a year. It was a pretty intense experience. I remember when I first got into the ICU, waking up, and I was intubated. They had like tubes inside my lungs. I couldn't speak. 2 nurses that were above me, and I really just wanted to talk, and I couldn't. At the time, I was like still kind of shook, and I wanted to write down what I wanted to say, but I couldn't write any kanji on like a board to tell them what I wanted to say. But I think I just cried, and then I think I passed out. But like in hindsight, I could have probably just written English because I couldn't think of anything at the time. So it was just a very like frustrating and intense experience, to say the least. The fortunate thing was that all of that hospital care was covered under my healthcare in Japan. So I was actually quite lucky. I didn't have to end up paying a lot. In fact, I did an entire video on that. It's called How Much I Paid for Japanese Healthcare. Link is in the description as always. I think overall the experience was kind of a wake-up call for me. Kind of realized that life could just be over just like that, and somewhere between staying in the hospital and all the long hours that I ever worked in Japan, I think it was just time for me to do something on my own and snowboard accident just kind of forced me out of that routine. I ended up quitting my job. I started on my own thing, and I tried a few different businesses. I had some money saved up from all of the work that I had done the last several years. So I was okay not having a job right away. I was sitting in the park, in fact the park that we were at earlier. I was sitting in the park with a friend, and we were just talking about our previous jobs. I told him how when I first came to Japan, I taught English. And we go hey, we're kind of free right now. How cool would that be if we could be in the park? And someone was able to just find us and have a lesson, meet us in the park, have a lesson for an hour, and then we'd be on our way. We didn't have to call them or organize it or have a set schedule. Got the ball rolling, and I was thinking, hey, that there might be an idea there. Thought about it a little longer, and I think that day I went home and I started actually working on a way to solve that problem. The most important thing for me at the time was just to start, and what I came up with was basically a GPS-based matching platforms for English teachers and students here in Japan. You can kind of say the app is a hybrid of Airbnb and Uber meets English teachers and students in Japan. Within, I would say, a couple weeks to maybe within a few weeks, I had the plan all fleshed out. I was interviewing developers. I devoted all of my time to trying to build this app because I thought, how cool would that be? Again, to just be in the park and someone to contact you, have a lesson, and then be on your way. You just message them all through your mobile device. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. You can have it here in Tokyo. Then maybe if you went to Osaka, you can do lessons there. So long story short, I built an app. It was called Eikaiwa Now. Eikaiwa meaning English conversation here in Japan. Now being now you can have lessons. So Eikaiwa Now. It made sense at the time. Had a small team in Tokyo. I was funding it all myself, and it was just a crazy learning experience. All this stuff I had never done before. Granted, I was in software development. I was doing IT infrastructure project management, which is nothing like building your own software, building your own company, starting your own company. All of this was completely brand new. Hiring was new, the finance, accounting, marketing, software development, all of it was new to me, but all the project management skills I had in the past, I was able to put it into this new project. I learned a lot. I would make mistakes, I learned from them, and then I'd fix it the next time around. You just keep on making changes every time around. And mind you, this whole time, I'm funding all of this myself, so I was taking on 100% of the risk. Probably not the smartest business choice, but again, I wanted to do everything on my own. I didn't want to have anyone owning any part of my dream. At least that's how I saw it. In order to fund this stuff, I pretty much cut out a lot of the partying, hanging out with friends, expensive meals. I pretty much didn't spend any money, and the only money that I spent was to throw back into this business because, it was that important to me. I wanted more than anything for this to succeed. And in order for me to do that, I knew I had to sacrifice some of the things I love. But I think one of the coolest feelings in the world was finally getting it published. Shortly after that was having someone actually use it and book a lesson and actually a payment to go through. That was kind of one of the most satisfying moments. Some of the important things I learned from this whole software development, app business, starting my own company, was one, software development is endless. It just never stops. Two, as much money you spend on building the app, you have to spend way more in marketing. I think three is, more than anything, you're going to need a lot of capital to fund this. Yeah, so I needed more capital, and in order to do that, I needed to raise funds 100% on my own, so I wanted to kind of raise the funds on my own. I didn't want to get investors at the time. Unfortunately, I got offered a private consulting job. It paid quite well. It was in the finance industry, and so I took it. Now I was not only building my app company, but I also was working in finance as a consultant at the same time, which was okay, because at this time I just needed the developers to develop. So basically I would just take the money that I was earning from the consulting position and I would just move it to the app business. Actually, around this time, just right after I took on the consulting position, I met Maiko, my wife now. We hit it off right away. I told her what I did, and one of the things was she was completely supportive from the beginning. I remember I had to hand out flyers at the park. She went and helped me hand out flyers. She was working for a top international brand. She liked it, but I don't think she liked the manager. And I said, hey, why don't you come work for me? And obviously there's a lot of risk in that, but I think she saw my dream, how passionate I was. She became a full-time marketer for QIWI Now. This was for like about a year or so, and then one day we were just talking about YouTube, and I said, hey, why not? Let's start. And so if you ever see my first video, I'm riding my skateboard, Michael is behind the camera, which at the time was my iPhone. We didn't really think too much of it, and we just started going. The first software we used was free software on the MacBook, the iMovie. So all of it we started with no money at all. We just decided to start, and from there started uploading content that we liked, and we would read the comments. At the time there was barely any comments, but we would read those comments, and then we just kind of make changes along the way, and then the channel became what it is now based on like your comments, all that feedback. The most important thing again was just to start. We just worked really well together, and at the time I was really into Casey Neistat. I think what was so attractive with Casey for me was that his videos were so simple. It made it look like anyone could do it, but then when we started trying to do it, it completely failed. We weren't doing it nearly as well. In fact, we were doing it horribly. But again, you learn along the way. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not very much of a camera person. In fact, again, in my first video, like super shy in front of the camera. Hey, it's Paolo. Check out my blog. Over time, it gets better and you learn. So now we're doing the YouTube channel, but I'm also doing the private consulting, and we're also doing the QIWI Now business. We're just super busy, and I think this year the channel kind of turned a corner and just started to really grow, really all because of you guys and all of your support. So again, thank you. Pretty much changed our lives, and I was able to start YouTube full time, quit my consulting business. I shut down QIWI Now, and now we're just doing YouTube completely. If you guys have watched the channel, you know that Michael and I also got married at the beginning of the year. What a lot of you might not know is that I actually proposed to her and recorded it on video and uploaded it to YouTube. I don't think a lot of people saw that, but it's actually an onsen video. It's called a private Japanese hot spring hotel. So if you guys want to see me propose to Michael, then check out that video. And what's clear to me then and what's so clear to me now, this whole thing would have never happened if Michael didn't take a risk on me. We would have never built this YouTube channel. We needed to have that opportunity to work together. And the fact that she saw something in the dreams I had for QIWI Now at the time really meant a lot. And that's kind of like something that I don't want to cry. Feeling kind of emotional right now. Let's pause this. Well, anyways, let's finish the rest of this video somewhere else. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, I'm lucky to have Michael, and I'm just kind of looking forward to the stuff we create moving forward for this channel, for you guys, and I'm just happy she took a risk on me, decided to work and help me with my dreams, and now we're creating our dreams together, which is pretty awesome. And I think that pretty much answers most of the questions. Oh wait, there may be a few more questions. For those of you who watched the earlier vlogs, you already know that both my parents are Filipino. I was born in the Philippines in Quezon City, but when I was 3, I moved to the States, first to San Francisco, and then later to the Seattle area in a little city called Redmond. Maybe not so little now. Growing up mostly in the Seattle, Redmond area, and then I went to university in LA. And although I eat a lot of food in my videos, I usually try to work out 5 to 6 times a day. Not 5 to 6 times, that's a lot. I try to work out 5 to 6 times a week. It helps keep the fried chicken gut down. And I guess that's pretty much it. But I think one thing I wanted to share, or I wanted to kind of leave all of you guys with, is what I've learned, at least for myself, the last few years living here in Japan. If you're stuck in something that you're doing that you don't want to do, you have a passion for something else, you have a dream that you actually want to pursue, I think the best thing to do is just start. One of the questions I often get asked is, how do I start this new job? How do I start this new business? Or even how do I start a YouTube channel? My answer is to just start. I don't don't worry so much about whether or not I can or can't do something. I just start doing it and I learn along the way. You just gotta let go and like see what happens. And although in QIWI that business was never as successful as I wanted it to be, and I spent a lot of money into it, I spent a lot of time, I was able to take all the stuff I learned from that experience and move it over to YouTube. So whatever you do, even if you fail or even though it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out, just as long as you're able to learn something from that experience, it's always going to be a positive. So with that all said, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. So much more content to come. And if you do have something that you're looking to do, don't worry about what's going to happen. Just start, because you never know what's going to happen. Catch you guys in the next one.
Ты слишком много наоборот, блин, нет, наоборот. Да наоборот, потому что, да, вот это и есть он сам. Мама твоя была, мама. Ой, мама, кто там звонил? Кто-то звонил мне. Мне кто-то звонил. В стереосистемах учись, не знаешь кто. Ну.
Здравствуйте. Вы предоставляете услуги или продаете товары? Я увидел ваше объявление на Авито. Скажите, вы размещаете свое объявление только на одном сайте Авито? Дело в том, что в вашем городе за одни сутки на Авито размещается 500 объявлений об услугах и товарах. Таким образом, если вы подали свое объявление вчера, то сегодня